Hey there, welcome back to Story Slices, where we slice through the best Reddit tales just for you. Let's dive right into the first story. The first one is the Tittle story, and it starts like this. I never imagined I'd find myself in a legal battle with a homeowners association I didn't even belong to. But life has a funny way of throwing curveballs when you least expect them. My name's Mike, and I'm a 35-year-old software developer. A few years back, I inherited a small plot of land from my grandfather on the outskirts of town. It was about 2 acres of mostly wooded area with a clearing in the middle. Nothing too fancy, but it had sentimental value. Grandpa used to take me fishing at the creek that ran through the property when I was a kid. I didn't have any immediate plans for the land when I inherited it. Part of me thought about maybe building a little cabin there someday as a weekend getaway. But for the time being, I was content to just hold on to it and occasionally visit to reminisce about simpler times with Grandpa. Little did I know, that quiet little plot of land was about to become the center of a ridiculous power struggle with an overzealous homeowner association. It all started on an otherwise ordinary Tuesday afternoon. I was working from home when I heard an impatient knock at my front door. Figuring it was probably a package delivery, I got up to answer it. Instead of a delivery person, I found myself face to face with a man in his 50s wearing an expression that could only be described as aggressively cheerful. He was dressed in khakis and a polo shirt with some kind of logo embroidered on it. "Good afternoon," he said brightly before I could even say hello. "Are you Michael Thompson?" "Ah, yes, that's me," I replied, a bit taken aback by his enthusiasm. "Can I help you?" "Wonderful to meet you, Michael. I'm Gerald Hawkins, Vice President of the Suncrest Meadows Homeowners Association." He stuck out his hand expectantly. I shook it, more out of reflex than anything else. Okay. How can I help you, Mr. Hawkins?" "Please, call me Gerald. I'm here to discuss an exciting opportunity regarding that plot of land you own over on Willow Creek Road." I frowned, immediately on guard. "What about it?" Gerald's smile widened. "Well, as I'm sure you're aware, Suncrest Meadows has been growing rapidly over the past few years. We're always looking for ways to improve our community amenities, and that little patch of yours would be absolutely perfect for our new clubhouse and recreation center." I blinked, trying to process what he was saying. "I'm sorry, but I'm not part of Suncrest Meadows. My property isn't even in your neighborhood." Gerald waved his hand dismissively. "Oh, that's not a problem at all. We'd be more than happy to incorporate your land into our association. Think of all the benefits you'd gain. Access to our pool, tennis courts, walking trails." "I'm not interested in joining a homeowner association," I said firmly, "and I have no plans to sell that land. It was my grandfather's." For a split second, Gerald's cheerful mask slipped, and I caught a glimpse of annoyance in his eyes. But he quickly plastered the smile back on. "Now, Michael, I understand you might have some sentimental attachment, but surely you can see how much good this would do for the community. We're prepared to offer you a very generous price for the land." I shook my head. "I appreciate the offer, but like I said, I'm not selling. That land means a lot to me." Gerald's smile was starting to look a bit strained. "Come now, be reasonable. What use is that little plot to you anyway? It's just sitting there empty. Don't you want to be a team player and help improve the neighborhood?" "It's not my neighborhood," I pointed out, "and what I do or don't do with my property is really none of your business. Now, if you'll excuse me, I need to get back to work." I started to close the door, but Gerald quickly stuck his foot in the way. "Now, wait just a minute," he said, dropping all pretense of friendliness. "You can't just dismiss this opportunity so quickly. The Homeowner Association Board has already approved plans for the new clubhouse. We're counting on using that land." I felt my temper rising. "That sounds like a you problem, not a me problem. You shouldn't have made plans for land you don't own. Now, please remove your foot from my doorway before I remove it for you." Gerald glared at me, but slowly withdrew his foot. "This isn't over, Mr. Thompson. You'll be hearing from us again soon. I strongly suggest you reconsider your stance if you know what's good for you." With that ominous statement, he turned and stormed off down my driveway. I watched him go, equal parts confused and irritated by the encounter. I had a sinking feeling this was only the beginning of my problems with the Suncrest Meadows Homeowner Association. Sure enough, over the next few weeks, I was subjected to a barrage of increasingly aggressive attempts to pressure me into selling my land. It started with a series of letters outlining their generous offer and extolling all the supposed benefits I'd gained by joining their association. When I didn't respond, the tone quickly shifted to thinly veiled threats about how uncooperative landowners could face legal consequences. I did my research and confirmed that they had absolutely no authority over my property, but that didn't stop them from trying every underhanded tactic they could think of. One day I drove out to check on the land, only to find several no trespassing signs had been posted along the perimeter, signs I definitely hadn't put up myself. I promptly tore them all down, fuming at the homeowner association's audacity. Another time, I got a call from the county clerk's office saying someone had tried to file paperwork claiming my property had been donated to the Suncrest Meadows Homeowner Association. Fortunately, the clerk recognized it as a forgery attempt and alerted me. The final straw came when I arrived home one evening to find a group of people with surveying equipment traipsing around my front yard. A portly man who introduced himself as the Homeowner Association president, Bob Wilson, was supervising them. "What the hell is going on here?" I demanded as I got out of my car. Bob had the decency to look slightly sheepish. "Mr. Thompson, we're just taking some preliminary measurements for the new playground equipment. I'm sure Gerald explained our plans to expand the neighborhood park." I stared at him in disbelief. "This isn't your property to expand anything on. Get off my land right now before I call the police." "Now, there's no need for that," Bob said placatingly. "We're simply operating under the assumption that you'll see reason and accept our very generous offer. After all, you can't hold out forever." "Watch me," I growled. "You have 60 seconds to get your people and equipment off my property, or I start making phone calls, first to the cops, then to my lawyer." Bob's fake friendly demeanor vanished. "You're making a big mistake, Thompson. We have ways of dealing with difficult people who don't want to play ball. This could get very unpleasant for you." "Is that a threat?" I asked coldly. "Merely an observation," Bob replied with a nasty smile, but he motioned for his crew to pack up their equipment. As they filed off my property, Bob turned back to me. "This isn't over. One way or another, we're getting that land. You'd be wise to take the carrot we're offering before we have to resort to the stick." I watched them go, my blood boiling. Enough was enough. It was time to fight back against these bullies. The next day, I took a personal day from work and drove straight to the office of Sarah Chen, a friend from college who had become a real estate attorney. I laid out everything that had happened over the past few weeks, showing her the threatening letters and filling her in on the various underhanded tactics the homeowner association had tried. Sarah listened intently, her expression growing increasingly concerned. When I finished, she let out a low whistle. "Wow, these guys really don't know when to quit, do they? The good news is, they don't have a legal leg to stand on. Your property is outside their jurisdiction, and you have no obligation to sell to them or anyone else. So what can we do to get them to back off?" I asked. Sarah thought for a moment. "Well, first things first, we need to send them a strongly worded cease and desist letter. That will put them on notice that any further harassment or attempts to claim your property will result in legal action." She pulled out a notepad and started jotting things down. "We should also file a formal complaint with the county about their forgery attempt and trespassing. And I'd recommend installing some security cameras on your property in case they try anything else sketchy." I nodded, feeling a weight lift off my shoulders now that I had a plan of action. "Thanks, Sarah. I really appreciate your help with this." "Of course," she smiled. "That's what friends are for. And honestly, I'm kind of looking forward to taking these homeowner association tyrants down a peg. They give legitimate associations a bad name." Over the next few weeks, we put our plan into action. Sarah sent a blistering cease and desist letter to the Homeowner Association Board, outlining all of their illegal actions and threatening severe legal consequences if they persisted. She also helped me file complaints with various local authorities about their behavior. I installed a top-of-the-line security system on both my home property and the disputed land, complete with motion-activated cameras. I also put up my own very clear no trespassing signs along the perimeter. For a little while, it seemed like our efforts had paid off. The harassing letters and phone calls stopped. I didn't see any more homeowner association cronies skulking around my property. I started to hope that maybe they had finally gotten the message and given up. But of course, it couldn't be that easy. About a month after we sent the cease and desist, I got a call from an irate neighbor who lived near my Willow Creek property. Apparently, a construction crew had shown up that morning and started clearing trees and bringing in heavy equipment. They claimed they were there to begin work on the new Suncrest Meadows clubhouse. I was livid. I immediately called Sarah, who advised me to head over there right away while she contacted the police and the county permit office. When I arrived at my property 20 minutes later, I was met with a scene of utter chaos. A good quarter-acre of trees had already been cleared, and several large pieces of construction equipment were parked in the newly made clearing. A group of workers in hard hats were milling around looking confused, while Gerald Hawkins appeared to be having a heated argument with a man I assumed was the foreman. I stormed up to them, my face hot with anger. "What the hell do you think you're doing?" I shouted. "This is private property." Gerald spun around, his face going pale when he saw me. He quickly tried to compose himself. "Mr. Thompson, I'm glad you're here. There seems to have been a little misunderstanding." "Misunderstanding my ass," I cut him off. "You're trespassing and destroying my property. The police are on their way, and I promise you I will be pressing charges." The foreman looked alarmed. "Whoa, hold on. The police?" Mr. Hawkins assured us all the permits were in order and we had permission to be here. I turned to the foreman. "Well, he lied to you. I'm the legal owner of this land and I absolutely did not give anyone permission to do this." I pulled out my phone and quickly pulled up a copy of the deed Sarah had advised me to keep handy. The foreman's eyes widened as he looked it over. "Jesus, Pete," he said, rounding on Gerald. "You told me this was all above board. We could lose our license over something like this." Gerald was starting to look distinctly panicked. Now, let's all just calm down. I'm sure we can work something out." He was cut off by the sound of sirens approaching. Moments later, 2 police cruisers and a county code enforcement vehicle pulled up. What followed was a flurry of activity as statements were taken and documents examined. The construction crew was apologetic once they realized they'd been misled, and agreed to restore any damage they'd done to the property. Gerald, on the other hand, was belligerent with the officers, insisting there had simply been a misunderstanding about property lines. But when they asked to see the permits he claimed to have, he was suspiciously unable to produce them. In the end, Gerald was arrested for criminal trespassing and destruction of property. The code enforcement officer issued several hefty fines to the homeowner association for operating without proper permits, and I was left to survey the damage done to my beloved woodland, feeling a mix of anger and sadness. As things were winding down, Sarah arrived on the scene. She took one look at the destroyed trees and destruction and let out a low whistle. "Oh yeah, we are definitely suing them for every penny they're worth," she said grimly. "This is going to cost them big time." Over the next few months, the legal battle with the Suncrest Meadows Homeowner Association played out. Thanks to their blatantly illegal actions and the mountain of evidence we had accumulated, it was a fairly open and shut case. The homeowner association was forced to pay for full restoration of my property, plus a substantial sum for damages and legal fees. Several board members, including Gerald, faced criminal charges for their roles in the scheme. The scandal rocked the entire Suncrest Meadows community. Many homeowners who had been bullied by the board over the years came forward with their own stories of harassment and illegal behavior. It sparked a full investigation into the homeowner association's finances and practices. In the end, the entire board was ousted and replaced with new leadership, who promised a more ethical and transparent approach. They formally apologized to me and made it clear they would no longer pursue my land for any projects. As for me, I used some of the settlement money to build that little cabin I'd always dreamed of. It sits in the middle of the clearing, overlooking the creek where Grandpa and I used to fish. Sometimes when I'm out there on quiet evenings, I could swear I feel his presence, nodding in approval at how I protected his legacy. The rest of the money went into a legal fund to help other homeowners stand up to homeowner association bullying and overreach. Sarah and I partnered with a local advocacy group to offer education and resources for people dealing with similar situations. It wasn't how I expected to become an activist, but I've come to see it as an important cause. Nobody should have to fear losing their property rights to the whims of power-hungry neighborhood dictators. In the years since the lawsuit, I've heard through the grapevine that Suncrest Meadows eventually did build their new clubhouse, on land they actually owned, with all the proper permits in place. Apparently it's quite nice, though I've never had any desire to see it for myself. I'm content with my own little slice of paradise, free from the meddling of overzealous homeowner associations. And every time I visit the cabin, I make sure to raise a glass to Grandpa, and to standing up for what's right, no matter how powerful the opposition may seem. Looking back, I'm grateful for the whole ordeal in a way. It taught me the importance of knowing your rights and not backing down in the face of intimidation. It also showed me the power of community. So many of my neighbors rallied around me and offered support during the legal battle. I formed lasting friendships with people who reached out to share their own homeowner association horror stories or offer encouragement. We have cookouts at the cabin a few times a year, swapping tales and advice on dealing with overbearing associations. The experience even inspired me to get more involved in local government. I now serve on a committee that reviews homeowner association regulations and helps mediate disputes between associations and homeowners. It's satisfying to be able to use what I learned to help others avoid similar nightmares. Of course, not every day is perfect. I still get the occasional dirty look from former homeowner association board members when I run into them around town. And for a while, I was paranoid about leaving my property unattended, always worried they might try something else. But as time has passed, those fears have faded. My little woodland oasis remains my favorite place to unwind and reconnect with nature, and I sleep soundly knowing that I honored my grandfather's memory by protecting it. If there's one piece of advice I'd give to others based on my experience, it's this: know your rights, document everything, and don't be afraid to stand up for yourself. With persistence and the right help, even ordinary folks like me can win against seemingly powerful opponents. As for Gerald Hawkins and his cronies, last I heard, Gerald narrowly avoided jail time but was slapped with a hefty fine and community service. He moved away shortly after the scandal broke. Apparently even his fellow homeowner association zealots wanted nothing to do with him after everything came to light. The others who were implicated mostly got off with fines and lost their positions on the board. A few are still around, noticeably humbled by the whole experience. I've even had a couple offer sheepish apologies when running into them at the grocery store or post office. Life has largely returned to normal, but I'll never forget the lessons learned during that crazy time. I'm more aware than ever of the importance of being an engaged citizen and standing up against injustice, no matter how small it may seem. And every time I visit my little cabin in the woods, I say a silent thank you to Grandpa for passing down not just the land, but the stubborn determination to protect what's important. I'd like to think he'd be proud of how it all turned out. Update. It's been about 5 years since the whole homeowner association debacle, and I can honestly say life has settled into a pretty good rhythm. The cabin on my grandfather's land has become my favorite weekend getaway spot. I've added a few modern touches like solar panels and a small wind turbine to keep it off-grid, but otherwise it's still the simple, peaceful retreat I always envisioned. The legal battles with Suncrest Meadows Homeowner Association are long behind us, but the impact of that fight is still being felt in positive ways. The advocacy group Sarah and I started has grown into a proper non-profit organization. We offer free legal advice and resources to homeowners dealing with homeowner association overreach across the state. It's been incredibly rewarding to help others stand up for their rights. Last month, we had our biggest win yet. We helped a group of elderly residents fight back against their homeowner association's attempt to force them out of their homes to make way for a luxury condo development. The case made headlines and sparked a statewide conversation about the need for stricter homeowner association regulations. As for Suncrest Meadows itself, things have changed dramatically there too. After the old board was ousted, the new leadership took a hard look at all their policies and practices. They've become something of a model for homeowner association reform, focusing on community building rather than petty rule enforcement. I actually ran into Bob Wilson, the former homeowner association president, at a town hall meeting a few weeks back. It was the first time I'd seen him face to face since the lawsuit. I'll admit, I was curious to see how he'd react. To my surprise, he approached me first, looking sheepish. "Mr. Thompson," he said, extending his hand. I owe you an apology. What we did back then was wrong, and I'm sorry for my part in it." I shook his hand, a bit taken aback by the sincerity in his voice. "I appreciate that, Bob. Water under the bridge at this point." He nodded, then hesitated before speaking again. "Listen, I don't know if you've heard, but I've been working with the new board as a consultant, trying to help them avoid the mistakes we made. Your case? Well, it was a wake-up call for a lot of us." "That's good to hear," I said. "How's that been going?" Bob actually cracked a smile. "It's been eye-opening to say the least. Did you know Suncrest Meadows is hosting a community picnic next month? Open to everyone in the area, not just association members. Never would have happened under the old regime." We chatted for a few more minutes, and I have to say, it felt good to bury the hatchet. It's easy to paint people as villains, but the reality is often more complicated. People can learn and grow from their mistakes if given the chance. Speaking of growth, remember Gerald Hawkins, the overzealous vice president who started this whole mess? Well, his story took an interesting turn. After narrowly avoiding jail time, he moved a few towns over and laid low for a while. But about a year ago, I got a surprising email from him. Turns out, our case had sparked some serious self-reflection on his part. He'd gone back to school and gotten a degree in urban planning, with a focus on community development. He wanted to meet up and discuss some ideas he had for improving homeowner association governance on a broader scale. I was skeptical at first, but Sarah encouraged me to hear him out. We met for coffee, and I have to say, I was impressed by how much he'd changed. Gone was the arrogant bully I'd dealt with before. In his place was a thoughtful, passionate advocate for responsible community management. "I realized I'd lost sight of what a homeowner association is supposed to be about," Gerald explained. "It's not about control or property values. It's about bringing people together and making neighborhoods better for everyone." We ended up having a long, productive conversation about the future of homeowner associations and community governance. Gerald had some genuinely innovative ideas about increasing transparency and homeowner participation in decision-making. To my own surprise, I found myself offering to introduce him to some contacts at the state level who might be interested in his proposals. It felt strange to be working with someone who had once been such an adversary, but isn't that how real progress often happens? As for my little piece of land that started it all, it's become something of a local landmark. The story of the David versus Goliath battle against the homeowner association spread, and people became curious about the property they'd tried so hard to take. At first, I was hesitant about the attention, but then I had an idea. Why not use this as an opportunity to educate people about land rights and conservation? With help from some local naturalists, we've turned the property into a kind of informal nature preserve. We offer guided walks a few times a month, teaching people about the local ecosystem and the importance of protecting green spaces. The creek where my grandfather and I used to fish has become a popular spot for local schools to do field trips about water quality and conservation. Seeing kids get excited about nature the way I did at their age, well, it's pretty special. We've even started a small community garden in part of the cleared area. Neighbors can rent plots to grow vegetables, and we donate a portion of the harvest to local food banks. It's become a real gathering place for the community. Last summer, we hosted a big cookout to celebrate the 5-year anniversary of winning the lawsuit. People from all over town came out, including quite a few Suncrest Meadows residents, watching everyone mingle and enjoy the land that was once the source of so much conflict. It was a powerful reminder of how far we'd come. During the cookout, Sarah pulled me aside with a grin. "You know, for a guy who just wanted to be left alone with his grandfather's land, you've become quite the community organizer," she teased. I laughed. "Yeah, funny how things work out. But you know what? I think Grandpa would have loved this. He always said land was meant to be shared and enjoyed." As the sun started to set, I found a quiet moment to slip away to my favorite spot by the creek. Sitting there, watching the water flow by, I felt a deep sense of contentment. The land was safe, the community was thriving, and positive changes were happening far beyond what I could have imagined. I thought about how close I'd come to just giving in when the homeowner association first started pressuring me. It would have been easier in the short term, sure, but standing up for what was right had led to so much good, not just for me but for the whole community. As if to emphasize the point, I heard laughter floating over from the cookout. Kids were playing tag in the clearing, adults were chatting around the grill, and someone had started strumming a guitar. I smiled to myself. Yeah, Grandpa would definitely approve. The whole experience has taught me that one person really can make a difference, even when it seems like you're up against impossible odds. It's not always easy, and it might not happen overnight, but standing up for what's right is always worth it in the end. These days, when people ask me for advice about dealing with homeowner association issues or any kind of community conflict, I tell them this: know your rights, stand your ground, but also be open to finding common ground. Sometimes your biggest opponents can become your strongest allies if you're willing to listen and work together. As for me, I'm content knowing that my grandfather's legacy is secure and that it's become something even greater than he probably ever imagined. This land isn't just a personal retreat anymore, it's a living, growing part of the community. And who knows, maybe someday I'll be the grandpa bringing my own grandkids down to fish in that creek, telling them the story of how this little piece of land helped change things for the better. That's a future I look forward to with a full heart. The next one is an entitled people story. This was our conversation yesterday. Am I the a-hole for refusing to babysit for my friend? My friend asked me to help her babysit her son and take him to and from summer school whilst she is at work tomorrow and the rest of the week. The thing is, my niece gave birth this week via a C-section, and I am staying with her at her house and helping her whilst she heals, because her husband works and can't be there all the time, and she needs a lot of help as she is still healing. And I told my friend this, and then at first she told me that me helping my niece is a good thing, and then in the very next mess she proceeded to guilt me by saying things like God is watching, and that he hears and sees everything, and that only asked me for a simple favor. She wouldn't accept no for an answer, and continued to guilt me. Send me more messages trying to get to say yes, and she said things like she's a nice person with a good heart and a good soul, and that she only asked for a small favor. After standing my ground for a while, she messaged me saying that God sends her good people, and that she asked her neighbor to help her, which she accepted. And then she finished it by saying her heart is good and clean. Edit 1. I have babysat my friend's son for years free of charge, because I knew she had no money, and because he wasn't a bother. And another thing is her son is sick, and she refuses to take him to the doctor, claiming they won't do anything after I have told her repeatedly for weeks to take him, and her son's coughing. Also made one of my children sick as well, because no one else in our family is sick except her son. Thankfully, I took my child to the doctor and they gave them medicine and they are better, but she refuses to do the same for her kid. Sometimes she acts like I can be at her beck and call and babysit for her 24/7, regardless of what's going on in my personnel life or if I'm busy. BTW, she does have other friends or neighbors that live nearby her that can help her, but instead, she calls me all the time because she knows I'm the least likely to say no. This is what happened today. This morning, whilst one of my children who has work in a couple of hours' time was sleeping, her son was knocking on our door, and she was on the phone with him, telling him to knock louder, as that's what my child heard her say when they called me asking if they should open the door. And I told my char not to, and that he can go to the summer school and be there early, as the school is across the street from my house, and that I told her yesterday I wasn't going to be home, but she still sent her son my way. And in the afternoon she told the summer school teacher to drop her son off at my house without even asking me first if it was okay. And one of my kids who was about to leave for work answered the door thinking it was me or someone else, and then I had to come back home in order to watch her son as he was going to be alone otherwise. And I do not like the idea of her child, or any child for that matter, being home alone in my house, because if anything happens to them, that's on me since he's in my home. Luckily, my niece's husband was home today as his day off from work, so he is able to look after her while I waited for the kid's mom to arrive to pick her up. And then when she came to pick him up, she told me that all she wanted was for him to sit in my living room and watch TV whilst he waited for her, and that she didn't ask for too much. Update? I told her that I didn't want her to bring her son over anymore, and that I thought was manipulative, and ducked up that she brought her son over despite me telling her I wouldn't be home, and that she endangered her son because if my son was not home, then anything could have happened to him. And I told her I hated how she used God in order to guilt me to say yes. And I also told her that it is not my fault if she willingly endangers her son, and I will take appropriate action if it comes to it. And I finished it off by telling her that God is watching and hearing her as well. She then replied by telling me that she only has one child, and that I have more than one child, and that I'm using that in order to hate her and her son. She then told me that I told her a long time ago that her and her son could come to my house any time, like I can't have plans or things come up, and that it's my fault that I want to help my family, and that I have to be available to her beck and call 24/7 no matter what. She then told me she sent my message to her family who live in a different country to, I think, prove how unreasonable I'm being. She then told me the message was me saying bad things about her and her son and trying gossip about them. That was our last conversation. I have not talked to her since. If you haven't seen my first post here, it is https://www.reddit.com/r/entitledpeople/s/hcavcu9d. I have zero problems with her child. Just have a problem with her not respecting a no when I already told her no, and trying to gaslight and guilt me into accepting her son coming to my house when I have plans. The next one is an entitled people story. I, 21M, and my girlfriend, Emily, 20F, live together with a roommate, Alice, 31F. We all contribute equally to our monthly house food. Food meant for everyone, not one specific person, budget. We can still have our own food, and as long as we communicate so nobody eats someone else's food. A couple weeks ago, I made myself and Emily some spaghetti with the house food. Just noodles and generic brand canned sauce, nothing fancy. Quick and easy because I was feeling lazy. Alice was at work until late that night, and myself and my GF ended up finishing all the spaghetti. When Alice came home, she saw the dirty pot in the sink and made a comment about being sad there was none saved for her. I asked if she wanted me save some for her next time I made it, but she didn't really give me a straight answer. I got the feeling she wanted me to though, so I made a mental note to do that next time I made spaghetti and moved on. A few days later, I made some pork chops. Again, nothing fancy. Emily wasn't hungry and didn't eat her portion, so I offered it to Alice when she came home. She accepted. However, when she put the food in the microwave to warm it, she made a face as the smell hit her. She tried not to let me see, but I could tell she wasn't thrilled. She took the food into her room to eat, which isn't unusual for her, so I don't know if she finished it or what. Since then, whenever we're in the kitchen together and I'm cooking, she's been kind of hovering over my shoulder and trying to give me advice on how to season my food. And honestly, sometimes it's good advice. I'm one of those people who views cooking as a constant learning thing, so I don't mind taking suggestions. However, she gave me an attitude whenever I didn't do something how she wanted or liked. It was always subtle and unspoken, until yesterday. I was making spaghetti again. When I make spaghetti, I keep the noodles and sauce separate, so everyone can choose how much sauce they want. Alice has seen me make spaghetti before, but this time she said I made it the white people way. I feel it is important to note that she is also white. She said I should mix the sauce in, and I told her that wasn't how I make it. She told me that she liked it better when it was pre-mixed, and here's where I maybe went too far. I told her I don't care how she likes it because I wasn't cooking it for her. I told her that when I cook, mine and my GF's preferences are the only things I consider, because the food is being made for us, not for her. If she doesn't like it, she has her own food to make, and there is nothing stopping her from eating that. She got all huffy and stormed off, and later on Emily said my tone came off a bit angry. I wasn't angry, I was just stating a fact, but maybe there was a way to put it more gently? I don't know. I'm told that I can sometimes come off as an a-hole without meaning to, that I have one of those resting faces that makes me look angry all the time even when I'm not. So am I the a-hole? Update. Hey, so I posted on r/am the hole and then ducked off for a bit, and the post sorta blew up. So I wanted to pop in and clear up a few things. The subreddit has a character limit that had me really pressed trying to fit in what I thought was the most relevant info, so I'm sorry that not everything was super clear. That's my bad. One common misconception was that I was only using house food for the spaghetti, so allow me to clarify. The noodles were house food, but the sauce was a specific, albeit generic brand that I prefer to buy, so it was my food. Our house food mainly consists of staples like pasta, bread, eggs, milk, etc. Things which are easily customizable to suit each person's tastes. The pork chops I mentioned were also my food. Another thing was that people seemed to be assuming that I was cooking her portion of the pasta, considering she would have technically paid for 1/3 of it. I can sort of see where this is coming from, but this was brought up back when she first moved in, and we agreed that figuring out thirds like that when it comes to this just complicates things further. We operate under a, if you cook it, it's yours mentality. So the pasta that I made was not half hers and half mine. It was just mine. This system has worked for us for over a year, and I sort of doubt that's the root of the problem. Also, with the first spaghetti meal mentioned, I made enough for 2 people. Me and my girlfriend. That's it. I did not make 3 portions. The second time, after I figured out she wanted some, I made 3 portions since she would be eating with us. I don't know why people assumed I was making more than I needed. But then again, it's the internet, and I bet some people are really just like that, so it's not like I can blame y'all. All that said, the answer I saw most often was that a discussion about the food budget needed to be had, and things needed to be properly split between the 3 of us. And while I'm on the fence, I do think it's worth bringing up with Emily and Alice. So that's probably what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna give Alice a bit more time to calm down though, since she still seemed cold when she left for work earlier. Final update. Alright, figured y'all should get one last update before I vanish off the face of the earth. Myself, Alice and Emily all sat down together last night after Alice got off work. I brought up what happened the other night with the spaghetti and explained how I saw things. To sum up what I said, I told her that while I appreciated her help sometimes in the kitchen since she had more experience than me, I didn't understand her insisting on something as small as stirring the sauce in or not, when she could simply stir the sauce in herself on her own plate. I was mindful of my tone and my wording this time around, and I think that helped. After I had said my piece, Alice let out a long sigh and apologized. She explained that she had a long day at work that day, and when she came home she was pretty moody, and ended up taking that out on me. She said that growing up her family always mixed in the sauce, and she had never actually eaten it the other way. So when she saw something she perceived as new, her brain just kind of flipped out about it. I told her I understood, and I apologized for maybe coming off more annoyed than I actually felt. I also took this opportunity to explain to Alice why I eat spaghetti this way. My older sibling has autism and is an incredibly picky eater, and when we were kids, they would refuse anything that wasn't plain buttered noodles. So the separation of noodles and sauce was our family's way of accommodating them, and I guess it just sort of stuck with me since it's how I grew up. She said that it made sense, and I told her if it really mattered I could stir her portion of the pasta when she's having a rough day. She smiled and said it's not necessary, but I heard this tone in her voice again, so I think I'm going to do it anyway and see how she responds. Since so many people seemed confused or concerned about the house food system, I decided to bring that up and ask if it was in any way relevant to this. She said no, that she really didn't mind the system we have. She said it probably would have happened no matter what I had made, since in her mind right then anything that wasn't made her way was wrong. Emily also agreed that as of right now our house food system is working, and neither of them saw a reason to change it. After that we just kinda hung out in the living room for a while, talking about weirdly specific food preferences we have in the same vein as stirred spaghetti. Turns out we're all picky about some random food item and it only makes sense to us. Like, I'll only eat hot dogs if they're not made with actual hot dogs, but Polish sausage, and it has to have mustard. Not sure if it's then called something else and honestly, don't care. Not the point. Point is, our strange and specific food preferences can be accommodated more often than not. Except Emily putting ranch dressing on her spaghetti. I love her, but some crimes can never be forgiven. The next one is an entitled people story. Something weird is happening between my husband and my best friend Dana, and I don't know if my head is just making up stories or their actions are really suspicious. My husband Phil and I are married for 4 years and are both in our early 30s. We are very happy together. He loves me a lot, but sometimes I have caught him lying to protect my feelings, which I do not really like. Dana is my best friend since college and we were roommates. Just to give some background about Dana, she was in a long-term relationship with her boyfriend for 3 years, but they broke up last year. He was also very insecure about Dana, and was very controlling about who Dana hangs out with. Dana's boyfriend was really jealous of Phil for some reason, and they would avoid hanging out with us. However, since the breakup, Dana and I have gotten closer and spent a lot of time shopping, going out to restaurants, etc. Phil also loves to tag along with us occasionally, but not always. Phil and Dana also get along well, and Dana has told me that if I find another Phil, I need to set up a blind date between them ASAP. 1 month ago, Phil, Dana and I had planned to go to a concert in our town. Phil was really excited as it was one of his favorite bands. I started feeling unwell the morning of the concert and just wanted to rest. Phil was disappointed but told me that we can offer our tickets to our friends, and we can see the band some other time. I didn't really want to spoil it for him, so I called few of my friends, and my friend Jess, mutual friend with Dana, was happy to go to the concert in my place. Phil still wanted to cancel, but I insisted he went as I would have felt bad if he missed the concert. They all went together and enjoyed the concert. Phil kept on sending me photos all through the night. The concert ended at 11 p.m., but I slept before that due to my medication. When I woke up in the morning, I was alone in the bed. I quickly checked my messages, and Phil's last message was at 11 p.m., saying they are leaving the concert, and he should be home soon after dropping Dana. I went to the living room, and Phil was sleeping on the sofa in the same clothes he wore to the concert. I waited for him to get up. I asked him about the night and when he returned home. He said that he came back home between 2 to 3 a.m. He said that there were multiple accidents outside the concert venue, and the traffic was horrible. He said he dropped Dana at her place and came home directly. I asked him why he was sleeping on sofa, and he told me that he did not want to disturb me, and also was too tired to change out of his clothes. Phil had some glitter on his clothes, but that was from dancing in the crowd at the concert. So he just crashed on the sofa and slept immediately. It seemed plausible, and Dana also confirmed the story. However, the weird behavior started after this night. Firstly, Phil stopped tagging along with me when I was hanging out with Dana. He would come up with the most unbelievable reasons to avoid going out with me when Dana was there. Phil has also been a bit aloof with me since that night, and I have noticed him spending a lot more time in his home office playing video games at night, instead of coming to bed. 2 weeks ago, I invited Dana to our house for drinks after we went out for shopping, and she also started giving reasons to avoid coming to our place. Dana has not visited our place since that day. The only time Phil and Dana saw each other was during a house party at my friend's place last weekend. I was observing their behavior, and they both were avoiding each other. I asked Phil about why he is avoiding Dana, and he said that it's just in my imagination. Dana also said the same, but then starts giving me bullcrap reasons for not coming over to our apartment. I feel in my gut that their behavior is suspicious, but I'm not sure if it's just my insecurity. How do I know what is going on? I have gone through Phil's phone multiple times, but the only messages between him and Dana are very sparse, and there are no messages since that night. I feel something happened between them that night, and both are just avoiding answering even the basic questions about why they are avoiding each other. Am I the off for assuming the worst? I really do not want to come off as insecure, but it is killing me from inside. Update. I had posted last week regarding my husband and my best friend avoiding each other after they went to a concert together last month. I really wanted to thank you all for helping me at my time of need and helping me with my tech questions. Sorry for the long post, but I confronted Phil and ducking Dana and was able to know what happened. Am I the a-hole my best friend and husband suddenly stopped talking to each other? I was briefly able to get access to Phil's phone last Friday night. I did not have time to retrieve any deleted messages. However, thanks to someone's idea, I opened his camera gallery and went through the photos he took that night. One important thing that jumped out was Dana's outfit. Dana was wearing white shirt and denim shorts to the concert. As it was an outdoor concert, she took off her shirt and was only wearing a blue bikini top. She had some glittering fake tattoos on her shoulder and back. By the end of night, she was again wearing her shirt. So, for the glitter to be on Phil's car seat and his clothes, Dana had to have taken her shirt off in the car. I was so angry and could not keep my cool anymore. I went and confronted Phil. He immediately broke down and started apologizing to me. He said that it was his fault that he took it too far and was feeling very guilty all month. He said that he did not want to tell me because I would have been very upset, and he just wanted to forget it. I told him to tell me what happened in detail, and he did. He told me that Dana and Jess both got drunk during the concert. Phil had to hold Dana while taking her to the car. Dana slept in the car for an hour, while Phil was driving. When she got up, she started playing music and singing loudly. At one point, she told Phil that it is hot in the car, and before he could lower the AC temperature, she took off her shirt. Phil said he was very uncomfortable at this point, and asked Dana if it's okay. He drives to our house and she could sleep in the guest room, as her apartment would have added another 30 minutes to the drive. She insisted that she wanted to go home, so Phil took her home. As she got out, she asked Phil if he could walk her back to her apartment as she still felt tipsy. After she opened the apartment door, she hugged Phil and said thank you. Phil said that he was sorry that the hug lingered too long, and they had a moment. I had tears rolling down my eyes and asked him if they kissed. Phil told me of course not, but he cannot describe it. But there was definitely a moment between them. He told me that Dana invited him in, but he immediately told Dana that he had to leave and made a run to the car. I kept on asking what happened, and he just said they had a moment that he felt could not control and just got out of there. After he came home, Dana messaged Phil that he should have come inside the apartment. Phil kept on telling Dana that it was an accident and to forget about it. But Dana kept on asking Phil if he is attracted to her and if he had a good time. Phil told Dana that he is not attracted to her and never will be, and told her to not tell me about it. She agreed, and he deleted all the messages. He said that he sat on the sofa because they were messaging each other for a long time, and he did not want to hear it. I asked him if he could retrieve the messages, and he told me he deleted them and also cleaned all his archive and sent messages. He just wanted to forget the incident ever happened. I showed him my post, and thanks to a comment, we went to find the messages on the SD card. Phil was right, and the messages were the same as what Phil described. I am still very mad at Phil for not telling me about it in first place. This is where it got super weird. I invited Dana for brunch yesterday and met her. I told her that I talked to Phil, and he confessed to everything that happened night during the concert. I asked her I wanted to give her a chance to tell her side of the story. Dana immediately became defensive. The story was the same until they got to her apartment building. Dana said that she opened her apartment door. She gave Phil a long hug for a great evening. She said that could feel Phil wanted more, but nothing happened beyond that. I asked her why she invited him inside the apartment. She told me that she wanted to offer him some water and snack as he was driving for a long time. I said that it's a really idiot move to invite my husband in her apartment at 1 a.m. at night, when she felt he wanted more from her than a hug. She said that I was just being jealous and crazy. We started arguing, and she blurted out that she was not the one popping boners during the hug. I told her she is never going to see Phil again in her life, and our friendship is done. She started shouting that she knows Phil loves her and he does not act on it because of me. She went on about how I am always complaining about Phil and do not deserve him. She said that Phil has been so nice to her after the breakup, and she feels he would leave me for her if he had a chance. She finally said that she could make Phil way happier than I ever could, and he has started to realize it now. At this point, I just wanted to avoid a blowout and walked away. I talked to Phil at night and what Dana said. He confirmed to me that he did become aroused when he hugged Dana that night, and he does not know why. Dana held his hand and invited him in after the hug, and he just ran towards his car. He said he feels guilty about it, but it does not mean he has feelings for Dana. He said he is very happy being married to me, and would like to keep it that way for the rest of his life. Although I am relieved that nothing happened between them, it has been hard for me to process my thoughts. I feel mad at Phil for hugging Dana in the middle of night when she is barely wearing anything. He should know better. On the other hand, I feel like an myself that my best friend had a thing for my husband that I had no clue about and pushed both of them to go to the concert together. The next one is an entitled people story. I, 25F, have my mom, 63F, living with me in my apartment due to the people we used to live with, and then eventually she lived with, being horrible to her, and treating her poorly both mentally and financially. It took me months to convince her to come live with me instead to better herself, but she finally did, and has been happier since. A while back, she was introduced to a 3-day weekend personal mastery seminar course. She was very interested in it, and while I was skeptical, I said she should go if she wants. She did, and she ended up loving it, which was great, and I was glad for her. Every now and again she brings up the seminar, talking about how she thinks it would help me and be good for me. I have tried to keep an open mind, but I remain very skeptical of this whole thing, as it's supposedly an interactive course that is meant to change your way of thinking about things. That being said, she's not allowed to tell anyone what actually happens at the seminar. No one is. It's part of the rule of the place. So me, being paranoid and skeptical as I've learned to be, doesn't trust it, and I've expressed this. My mom has been understanding of that fact. Still though, she continues to bring it up now and again. A few days ago while shopping, we saw one of my mom's friends, Julie, 60s, F fake name, and they got to talking about the course which they have both gone to. They both really kept encouraging me to go, and I expressed discomfort at that, and they said they understood, and I could go if I'm ready. I thought it was finally over with. Yesterday, my mom suddenly sprung on me that Julie has received an anonymous donation to sponsor someone to go to the seminar this weekend. It costs $995 to sign up, and Julie wanted to sponsor me. Julie's husband even offered to use his hotel points to get me a free room so I'd be able to go for totally free. I felt so uncomfortable and didn't know what to do. I had a very long talk with my mom about how I feel extremely pressured to do this thing I really don't think I want to do, and she seemed receptive and understanding. But now I feel like I'll be in a hole if I don't accept an extremely generous offer, despite the fact that I'm uncomfortable. My mom has given Julie's husband my number, and he plans to call me and talk to me about the seminar, and I really don't even want to have the conversation. I'm trying to have an open mind, but I really don't like the idea at all. I feel very forced into this situation despite my mom saying I don't have to go. So would I be the a-hole? Update. My update wasn't approved in from a few months ago, and I wanted to share it here instead. Here's what I originally put in the update that wasn't approved. In my previous post, I detailed how my mom went to a personal mastery course and she wanted me to do the same. More details on that here. I went home and had a long talk with my mom. She was very resistant at first, but ultimately settled down and just listened. She asked a few questions here and there, and I answered to the best of my ability. I explained everything and laid it out on the table. I shared the testimonials I could find from real people who described exactly what happened during those seminars and how screwed over they got by it. She couldn't believe it. She started to cry. She felt upset and betrayed, and she asked me how could she be so stupid. I had to calmly explain to her that she wasn't stupid, that she was preyed upon by people she could trust while she was in a vulnerable state. She seemed to understand after I explained how they almost did the same to me while I was also in a vulnerable state. More talking, and I come to find out the people that turned her onto the idea of going to the seminar herself before were Julie and her husband. I described to her in vivid detail how they would go about this, how they would start with saying how it changed their life, then have someone call you, then have someone pitch it to you over the phone, until you finally caved and spent $1,000 and went. Her jaw seemed to drop to the floor, because that was what she experienced. After talking for a while, I later learned that Julie and her husband were begging my mom to come on Sunday of the weekend. I was supposed to go. After digging into this more, I think they may have been planning to start trying to bring her into the side of pulling people into the cult-like organization. She didn't go, but didn't want to believe that Julie and her husband were a part of this, and wanted to believe they were good people who didn't really know what they were doing. I was once again skeptical, but I told her they are not my friends, and I will allow her to handle it accordingly. She understood, and while not revealing that she knew it was a scam, has since tried to text or call Julie. She never returns her calls or texts. She's ghosted my mom. I think that was one of the bigger nails in the coffin for her. Had pointed out a show by the name of The Vow on HBO. They explained how it was a documentary of a similar sounding cult, and that it may be worth making her sit down and watch it. After our long talk, I made her watch. She stared at the screen in horror for the first episode I watched with her. She told me in a trembling voice that this was the exact seminar she'd gone to, just with a few small details changed. That documentary details another company that in the end it was revealed to be a sex cult. It opened my mother's eyes and mine. So that's what happened. My mom accidentally fell for a MLM cult and was betrayed by her friends and almost betrayed me while she was at it. Julie and her husband never contacted her and I again. Mom still thinks about it sometimes, but I noticed the things she had from her exercises from the seminar that she used to hang on her wall are missing. I feel bad for her, but I'm just glad I got her out of there when I did. I hope this was a satisfying update. Thank you to all the Redditors from my first post who helped me find out that Clemmer and Associates was an awful scam and helped me break my mother away from this awful thing. I appreciate you immensely. Thank you. The next one is an entitled people story. When I was a teenager, my father bought a large glass vase, which he filled with wine corks. For years, it stayed on top of a small table in the living room. My family visits him monthly for lunch. Last October, my son was running around my father's living room and accidentally knocked the table over, which caused the vase to fall down and break. I immediately apologized and offered to buy a new vase. My husband and I also cleaned everything up. My father declined my offer to replace it. At the time, he said he understood it was an accident and was just glad my son hadn't gotten hurt. He was 2 years old at the time, and there was a lot of glass on the floor. During the next couple of months, I apologized and offered to pay for a new vase multiple times. My father continued saying it was fine. However, earlier this year, my father started talking about how much he loved the cork vase and how expensive it had been back when he bought it. As the following months went by, his complaints began to escalate. He'd make comments about the fact that my son broke the vase almost every time we came over. Occasionally, he'd also joke that we should plan our visits with longer notice so that he could hide his valuables from my kid. Last week he threw a party at his place which we attended. A friend of his who hadn't visited in a while noticed the vase was gone and asked about it, to which my father replied that my little crap had broken it and I hadn't replaced it. My husband was nearby and heard it. After the party, I confronted my father, and we fought. He said that he had the right to complain about the fact that my son had damaged his property. I told him that while he has the right to be upset, the fact that he declined my offer to buy him a new vase does not entitle him to complain about me not doing it. He can either retract his forgiveness and work something out with me, or get over the vase and stop blaming my toddler for the accident. I won't have him calling my son names over this. My father is still insisting I'm in the wrong here. Am I the a-hole? Update. After reading your comments, I decided to offer to buy my father a new vase again. I explicitly told him this would be the last time I'd make that offer. If he said no and continued to complain about it, he wouldn't be allowed to see my son until he'd calmed down. He eventually agreed. The store he'd bought the original vase from does not exist anymore, so I started doing some research. I found one I thought was very similar at a furniture store near my place. I'd bought vases from them before, so I knew they had great quality. On Saturday, we went on our monthly lunch at my father's place and took the opportunity to give him the new vase. He seemed grateful at the time and had a cute moment with my son as they filled it up with the corks. I thought this was done. But the next day, my father called me. He had looked up the new vase online and noticed it was less expensive than he expected. Then he asked, "Are you sure this is the best you could find?" That's when I said screw it. I'm done with his passive aggressiveness. I told my father we're no longer going to his place for anything. If he wants to see my family, he can come to ours. He protested, but I held my ground. My father did not communicate his wishes at any point, and still complained about the outcome. I'm done watching my family be accused of being bad people, and I don't want this behavior to extend to my son any more than it already has. So this is where we stand now. My father doesn't like driving to my place, so I'm not sure about the future of our monthly lunches. I love my father, but I am extremely disappointed in him. If all this means I will see him less than usual for a while, I might be a little glad. The time apart might be good for us. My greatest concern is my son's relationship with his grandfather, which I will try to encourage. The next one is an entitled people story. Hello, I of course know how awful this sounds, but it is a recent development and I'm unsure if I'm completely in the wrong. Before I married my husband, he had 3 children with his ex-wife who were 2,25 when we got married. His ex was still bitter. I say this in the most respectful way possible, but it's true, as they had only been divorced officially for a year. After that, custody was a big issue with us, with her and my husband fighting for full custody. Unfortunately, we only ended up getting weekends and the complete months of December and July while they were out of school. So it goes without saying I wasn't much of a mother figure to them rather than their father's wife. My husband passed away 2 years ago in an accident, and I haven't seen them aside from the funeral in all that time. His wife called me up sometime last month to reveal she's suffering from a terminal illness, a brain tumor, and that she was hoping I could take in the children after she passed. Both her and my husband's parents are far too old to even care for themselves completely. I still take his mother grocery shopping as she can't do it alone, and that there was no one else who would be able to care for and support the children in a proper way. She said her sister suffers from addiction, and I'm not sure if that could be something the state would consider if there was truly no one left. I told her I'd consider and needed to think it over and would call her in my mind, I feel that even though it's heartbreaking that she has to consider who will care for her children when she's dead so soon, but I'm not sold and I don't want to jump in with full custody of 3 children who I haven't seen in 2 years. Am I the a-hole? Update. I want to thank everyone for their condolences for my husband and the life he lost. I wasn't sure if it was my right to update this, as I'm sure I made a decision most people would think me awful for. But at this point, it's more of a releasing of feelings off my chest. As you know, my husband's ex is ill, and I still feel for her greatly with much sympathy, and will pray for her and her children. But it's been a very long time since I was in any way a parent to them, even as a step-mother. Most of their care went to my husband. I just don't feel I could properly care for them and myself in my life. I told her this, and I feel awful that I made her react the way she did, crying and coughing. There was so much guilt, I felt it was awful. But I think I have always known my decision, that I wasn't going to take in the children. I just didn't want to acknowledge it because it made me feel awful. I wish I could tell you where she decided they're going, but after our meeting where I told her my decision, it's been radio silence. As much as I would like to say they're going to people who are perfect and they'll be fine, I don't know. And their mother doesn't owe me an explanation. But I do wish them and her the best, and in the best case scenario, I pray for her health. The next one is an entitled people story. So, I've been dating my girlfriend Lily for a little over a year. It had been going great, and we were getting very serious, even talking about moving in together. So, my parents asked me to invite her over to their house for a Passover Seder last month. For those who don't know Passover, it's basically like a meal combined with a story to celebrate the story of Exodus, the Jews being freed from slavery in Egypt, Moses, etc. I've only had one other serious girlfriend, when I was in college, and she was Jewish. Lily is not Jewish, but honestly, my parents don't care. They didn't really like my ex, and seemed to really like Lily. I grew up very secularly. All that being said, there are a lot of Jewish-specific things happening during a Passover Seder. So I think my parents, especially my dad, felt this need to maybe over-explain things to Lily, and it seemed to make her uncomfortable. I didn't say anything at the time, which I regret, because I did notice that she seemed off, like quieter than usual. But I also thought that she might just be a little quiet because she was meeting my parents, and that saying something might draw more attention to it, which she wouldn't want. Not an excuse, just an explanation of my mindset at the time. Anyway, since then, and it's been nearly a month, Lily's been kind of distant. She usually spends most nights at my apartment, but has only been over a couple of times and hasn't wanted to have sex. I noticed this within a week and tried to talk to her about it. I apologized for my parents' behavior and emphasized that I love her and her not being Jewish doesn't matter to me. She just turned kind of blushed bright red and said it was fine, but it's obviously not fine, and she doesn't want to talk about it. Does anyone have any advice on how to broach this again, or what to do or say? I'm really lost, and I don't want to lose my relationship over this. Update. It's been a weird ducking week, so I apologize if this isn't the most coherent update. After I posted, I really appreciated the advice, noting that I might be making some assumptions about what was upsetting my GF, Lily, so I asked her if we could talk and that I just wanted to be open with each other. She agreed to meet up on Friday after work, when we normally would anyway for a date. So I made a nice meal for her at my apartment, her favorite thing that I cook, this creamy, lemony pasta dish, and then afterwards I tried to just kind of have this open-ended conversation about what I noticed. For example, how she's been more distant, and was there something wrong? She was really hesitant, just looking kind of nervous, and then she just kind of blurted out that the Seder made her uncomfortable. Okay, so that's what I thought, right? So I figure, okay, let's talk this through. It turns out that while she knew I was Jewish, she didn't think I was so Jewy until she came to the Seder. I cringed and told her that the word Jewy was inappropriate, and she did not like me saying that. There's a part of the Passover Seder where we say next year in Jerusalem, just like a kind of hopeful attitude in light of the Jewish diaspora, I think. Anyway, she said that she found that part really inappropriate given the current war in Gaza. I told her that those things were not connected. My family has no real connection to Israel, and the Seder is a hundreds, maybe thousands, years old tradition that long predates the modern state of Israel. She didn't seem to care about that. So, I finally asked her if she had a problem being in a relationship with me given my Jewishness. She emphatically stated that no, she loves me, but it was a shock and she needs time. That really threw me though, and I asked her what she needs time for, but she didn't have a real answer. So I went to my parents for the weekend to just kind of get away, since I wasn't sure what all this meant. While I was gone, I got an alert on my phone that an AirTag was following me. I found it hidden in my car. I called Lily, and she denied it was hers, but I was pretty sure she was lying, since she's not a good liar. Finally, she admitted she was trying to see where I was going, and if it was to the temple. I honestly haven't been inside a temple since my bar mitzvah almost 13 years ago. Anyway, it should go without saying that I ended it. I blocked her on everything. I destroyed her AirTag too. No clue what the duck is wrong with her, but it feels anti-Semitic, I guess. Wish I had a happier update. I thought she was the one, but duck me, I guess. The next one is an entitled people story. Me, 26F, and my husband, 27 meters, have a daughter, 6F, who we have recently been trying to teach more responsibility to. We decided we didn't want to get a pet, even a goldfish, because it was unfair if it died, and after some thinking we brought up the idea to my daughter of growing her own plant. She was thrilled with the idea, so the next day we took her to get some seeds. She chose sweet pea seeds and took to caring for her plant better than we expected. It grew really quickly, and was thriving quite well considering the tools she had, and soon she was showing a strong interest in gardening. We started calling her Sweet Pea, important later, because of her project, and every day she's tell us of the news with her plant. Recently I got news that my grandmother had passed away and we had to fly out to her funeral. My sister, 22F, never talked to her, and didn't want to attend the funeral, so I decided to ask her to look after my daughter's plant while we were out for the week. She agreed, and we brought the plant over. My daughter kissed it goodbye, and asked her to please take good care of it. My sister said she would, and though everything was fine, until we got back. When I went to get the plant, my sister said, "Oh yay, I completely forgot about that," and laughed. She brought the pot out and the stem was somehow snapped and it was wilted. My daughter ran crying to the car and I yelled at her for forgetting it and being irresponsible. She said I could just buy her another one, but I said that wasn't the point and left. She hasn't apologized since. I've since been no contact with her and refused to let her visit. She's done other stuff like this in the past because she likes to act as if she's 18. And I've listened to my parents when they told me to let it go, but this time she really hurt my daughter. My parents are now saying it's just a plant and I'm being ridiculous for holding a grudge. My daughter has been extremely sad since the incident and has lost interest in gardening, even asked us to stop calling her Sweet Pea, which breaks my heart. So Reddit, I ask you, am I the a-hole? I hate to see my daughter like this, but I'm not sure if I'm overreacting. Update. Some of you had been asking for an update, and since my last post some good and bad things happened that I should write about. After I had some time to cool off from the events at my sister's and read all the comments, I realized I was overreacting a little bit. I understand now that it was my fault to let my sister handle something that was so important to my daughter, and so after she had a bit of time to grieve her plant, I wasn't going to rush her feelings. We had a conversation of plant life cycles. I talked to her about how plants, even in the most well-cared-for circumstances, can pass away, and I told her how proud I was that she took care of her plant as well as she did. After a bit of pep talk, she seemed ready to have a go at it again, and so we took her to the garden shop again where she picked out her own tools, soil, pots, gloves, and lots of different plant seeds. We also got her some vegetable and fruit seeds like some of you suggested so that she could eat what she's grown, which she's really excited for. As for my sister, after a week of posting, I went over to try and explain why the plant meant so much to my daughter, and how it couldn't be so easily replaced. I'm sad to say that she once again lectured me on how it was just a plant and that they die all the time. I also got a text from my parents about how they thought I was mature enough to just let go of something so stupid. I realized that they aren't going to change their minds on the subject and that I should just move on. So I've decided to drop the topic with them, but I have decided never to let my sister handle anything of value, especially if it's my daughter's. I have since apologized to my daughter about the Sweet Pea and we hugged it out. We also took the suggestion to use the old Sweet Pea as compost for a new one so that the old plant is still with us. Overall, it's a happy ending. My daughter is feeling better than ever, has given names to all her plants, she has 12 now, and 2 succulents, takes care of them just as well as the old Sweet Pea, and has even gone back to requesting we call her Sweet Pea again, which I almost cried tears of joy when she asked that. Thank you to all the suggestions given, and the people who offered to send seeds through for my daughter, as well to the people who helped me realize my mistakes. I'm also glad to say we have found a potential plant sitter in the future. My husband's coworker is very keen on plants and has a very green thumb just like my daughter. Also, at this rate we're considering setting up an indoor sanctuary for the plants when it gets too cold in winter to bring them outside. So glad things turned out well in the end. Everyone's happy. The plants have already started sprouting, and life has never been better. The next one is an entitled people story. My 50F friend Lauren, 46F, is a vegan who doesn't drink. That's awesome and I have no issue with that. The problem is that she is part of a small group of friends who don't get out very often, but when we do it always has to be limited due to Lauren's choices. We live in an area where our food choices suck to begin with, so having to go to eat where she can be satisfied is very limited. There really isn't much to do otherwise at night. In addition, she gets upset when any one of us eats something that has an obvious meat to it. For example, she doesn't say anything if we get a soup with chicken or something, but if we ordered a hamburger she would cause drama. Then she doesn't drink, which is no big deal. But she will then send us videos on the harmful effects of alcohol if we get a drink or two with dinner. It has gotten on my nerves to say the least. It's been a while now, so I am done with everyone catering to her needs. I have tried inviting everyone to specific places and invite Lauren as well. Then she puts into a group chat, "Hey ladies, since I can't eat at X, why don't we go to Y?" Then of course the other ones decide we should go to Y instead. I have backed off of going out because I don't want to spend money on food that sucks. Remember, it's vegan, not vegetarian, so it's very limiting and is expensive, or have my intelligence questioned by sending crap about the effects of alcohol, as if we are not beyond old enough to know or Google it. I barely drink anyway, but enjoy a glass or two every so often. She asked why I keep bailing, so I told her I respect your choices, but by the very nature of them, they have limited mine. Being that I don't have the ability to go out often nor unlimited funds, I'm only going to go when I know the entire experience will be what I want. So if I am in the mood for a steak and a vodka tonic, I want to have them in a relaxed atmosphere, and that obviously bugs you. If I'm in the mood for a salad and water, I will gladly join you, or we can just hang out at the beach when we have time during the day. She didn't like that too much. She said that isn't what friendship is about, and I should enjoy the company enough not to care. I told her that I understood and I would gladly hang out with her when food or drink isn't in question, because it's too expensive not to enjoy it. She said that there is nothing else to do around here. Then I asked if it's just about friends, then maybe she can eat first and join us out sometimes, and other times we can go to where she wants. She then told me that she's not going to sit around watching people eat meat. I said okay, I get it, and you need to get that I'm not catering to your needs each time I'm free to hang out. I later got a text from a mutual friend that Lauren was upset, but she agreed with me because she was tired of the same crap. Of course, this friend doesn't like conflict, so just listen to Lauren. So, am I the a-hole for not wanting to continue to eat food? I don't like or refrain from having a drink or two to keep the peace here. Or am I right in feeling like she's being selfish, expecting the rest of us to do what she's comfortable with each time? Update. Thank you so much to the countless people who commented on my post shown below. You made me realize that I wasn't an and shouldn't have put up with her BS. Many asked how I put up with it for so long. I don't have a good answer, but it was more about the group itself where I didn't want to create drama. My experience with friends have been lucky, as most everyone has been loving, fun, and selfless. We can also call each other out on BS by busting chops and laugh. This was my first group who met semi-regularly, and the others are very sweet to where I felt uncomfortable rocking the boat. Anyway, yesterday it was a bazillion degrees out here in Florida, and I was playing tennis with Lauren and 2 others. We were dying. I don't normally play with her, but these women are all on my team I joined, coming up in the fall, so we needed to start practicing. No, I did not join because of Lauren. Lol. I've played against the other 2 throughout the years, and they have been asking for me to play for a long time now. I live in a small area, so it's common for circles mixing like this. One of the ladies had to stop due to dizziness, cramping, and nausea. We all decided that we should only play much earlier in the summer, except of course Lauren, who didn't want to wake up early because she said she doesn't play well then. That's when I had it. With the power of thousands of random Reddit strangers in my head, I basically told her off. I told her I'd never met someone so self-absorbed in my entire life, and it was disgusting that she would even think that way in front of a teammate who clearly had heat exhaustion, let alone have it come out of her mouth. I said all this while her ass is sitting down, while the other woman and I got a cold, wet towel for this woman and getting her to drink. Lauren stormed off. These other 2 thanked me. One was her usual partner, who is the sweetest person alive, and said she has been wanting to tell her off for a year now. The other one, who was feeling like crap, said she is going to tell the captain that she needs to go because she is like a cancer on the team. I am very happy to say that I will not be dealing with her selfish BS any longer. She can go shove a carrot up her ass for all I care. Lol. Thanks so much, everyone. Tonight I'm going to have a giant hamburger and a cold beverage in your honor. Cheers. The next one is an entitled people story. Just happened and I'm kinda mind-boggled, so I thought I'd share. I'm taking my work van through an automatic car wash. There's the entrance with power jets for the underside. Middle part has the main washing arm that circles the cars, and the end has the blower to dry off. Entrance and exit doors automatically close before and during use, probably also because it's a sketchy area to leave it open. So my van is just finishing the wash and the dryer kicks on and exit opens. A wild boomer appears. Brown slacks, earth tones golf shirt, and a minty condition poop brown trucker hat to accessorize his walking cane. He gestures at me with a lot of smiling waves, then makes the roll down your windows gesture as I approach. Buddy, my van is soaked in water everywhere. I'm not opening my windows to say hi until maybe after if you're lucky. Good news for him, as when I do exit fully, I have to step out to refasten an antenna, so I turn around to ask what's up. Old bugger has now hurried inside past the blowers, yelling now about how hot they are, swearing his ass off. I guess he left something inside? Duck if I care. Well, because my car is past the exit, sensors the door shuts before the guy can react or hear me, but I heard his "oh crap" exclamation lol. He waddles toward me, and then lucky him, someone else is about to use it. Exit door stays shut, entrance opens, high pressure jets start at entrance, and the middle washer part starts up, and booms runs, the I'm an idiot, gets soaked and soaped gauntlet lol. I was pulling away and watched the new washer be kind enough to let him out the entrance, but he was soaked head to toe. Best part about the visual is now his hat looked like a fresh poop. What a guy. Update. Okay, as I mentioned in comments in the original post, I'm a regular at this wash, and decided today I'd try and get footage for laughs. Well, I didn't get any, but I got more to add, and once again I'm stunned by karma coming back. So today, I asked the cashier if they keep security cam footage available to staff, and I quickly run down my encounter with the weird boomer yesterday. She says it was a whole incident after I left, and like an excited child, she had all my attention on this and was not disappointed. Remember, the boomer was mad and had a cane as he ran around inside as it fired up during his daring escape? Yeah, Boomer did a bigger boomer, and apparently was swinging his cane around like a bat to beat the automatic wash into submission to aid his escape. Guess he's got a decent swing with a weapon, because he actually broke the middle washer arm and they had to refund the kind soul that followed me through the wash and freed Bam Bam the Boom Boom. So they had some footage alright, but they called the police on him. The angry wet boomer apparently left by walking off the property before he could be nabbed, I guess. I like that he had a wet walk home for his efforts. However, when the police got to the wash to respond, they claimed the footage for use in a criminal investigation on the boomer. I laughed so hard. But that wasn't all, and it's so funny I almost wonder if the cashier is putting me on. Apparently the poop-hatted boomer decided to let the staff have his opinion on his service today, but it was the exact moment later that the cops were interviewing the staff and taking the footage. The cashier said the cop asked her for a description, and he just walked in, so she pointed at him and says, "That guy." He got hauled out of the storefront immediately and taken away, but the cashier said she overheard his defense on why he broke the car wash, and "I'm sorry, I just died." Self-defense? Facepalm? I don't know if she's putting it on or not, but after yesterday I both choose to believe and don't know why she'd embellish anyway. Wow, did not see this ending. Sorry, no footage as it's a criminal thing now. But maybe one day it'll go public or hit the local news or something, and I'll 101% share if I see it. Lol, what a guy. Are you hungry for more slices of stories? Don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell to never miss out on any videos. See you tomorrow at Story Slices.